Welcome to Still Growing in Grace, a program dedicated to inspiring joy, giving hope, and delighting in grace. I'm Mike Zenker, and I'll be sharing with you a message of hope that will expand your understanding of God's love and amazing grace. God already deeply loves you, totally accepts you, and really, really likes you. Growing in Grace Ministries Canada and Hope Fellowship, your community church, invite you to enjoy today's program as we dig deeper into what it means to be still growing in grace. Grace, I hope you're having a really good day. Today's program's going to be a little different. I've not done one like this today, where I have a conversation with a group of people. So before I introduce this, let me introduce the group. This group is a Facebook group called Jesus Unchained. Subtitles, Deconstruct from Dead Religion Without Losing Your Faith. That to me is a really important part of the equation, without losing your faith, because I remember the first time I started to entertain this deconstruction notion or talk, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, where that kind of terminology was beginning to be more actively used in, at least in the circles that I'm in, even though I've been deconstructing for years and years, probably 20 years. But it all depends on our definition of deconstruction. But I love this idea of Jesus Unchained, to deconstruct from dead religion without losing your faith. I love the terminology of an idea of dead religion, because religion in a pure sense is really connecting people together based on a set of values, beliefs, and such. What we've seen happen is religion has been turned into a set of rules and regulations and control parameters, and people are running from that and don't like it. Some love it, good for you, but I don't. So how then do we unlearn some of these things without losing faith, without losing Jesus in it? And I've had many people come onto this program sharing stories of, I don't believe in this anymore, I've given up God, but just Jesus. That's all I just believe in just Jesus. And that was, but their journey from just Jesus is really one that's brought them to a place of a more beautiful picture of who God is. Anyway, I want to talk to you about, or share with you, 2 books that have really impacted me lately. Hey, buddy, good to see you there, bro. The first book I want to recommend, and we're gonna have Brad on to this program soon, but this book called Out of the Embers, Faith After the Great Deconstruction. This is not an easy read, but it's a simple read with a lot of depth and a lot of here's why you need to know some history. All right. When we got into the sections on existential courage, Nietzsche, and different people like that, I thought, that doesn't excite me to hear about that or read about that, because I got the audiobook, and I found out, man, we got to know our history. We have to understand why some of these people said what they said, and why the religious, I'll call it the legalistic church, has a hard time with them, because they've been misunderstood, just like the Bible. So this is a great book, okay? The second book that I highly recommend, this is called Do I Stay Christian? A Guide for the Doubters, the Disappointed, and the Disillusioned by Brian McLaren. He also wrote a book called Faith After Doubt. This one is phenomenal. I think the first 10 chapters are dedicated to those who want to ditch their faith and say, is it that way? No. I forget. There's like 2 halves to the book, and they're intense all the way through. Maybe for the first half, I forget. He did word it. I think I heard it in an intro, and I thought it was just beautiful. So, Do I Stay Christian? Again, these books fit this group that I'm talking about, and I'm in this group, this Facebook group. By the way, the link to join the group is below. However, please mention you were listening or watched this program. That way they kind of have an idea of who you are, because they don't want individuals in this group that are not honestly deconstructing. because this is supposed to be a safe place to question, to ask what some people may think is a dumb question, but it's got to be safe enough to do that. So that's kind of where this group's at. So I thought let's have a conversation with the admins of this group. Let's find out how this group got formed. For me, I was the one learning the most, so I'm kind of hosting the video. But I thought I'm going to share this with Still Growing Grace. Still Growing Grace is a Canadian ministry, and this Jesus Unchained is a group of folks that are from around the world. However, a number of the key people are from Canada, and it's just a different tone. I think you might like this. So, let me introduce to you some folks who are also unlearning and have not lost their faith. And I think this is going to be great. I really, really hope you like this. I'm going to be listening to it for the first time since I recorded it with you. So I'm comment away. And by the way, if you're watching and haven't commented, let me know you're watching and where you're watching from. But for now, let's get into this interview. I think you're going to love it. Here we go.
So,
All right. So this is our first Zoom call. I'm going to hand this right over to Sarah. Sarah, introduce yourself and the group, and why are we doing this? I'm just going to be your little techie guy recording all this.
okay. All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm Sarah. I am the unofficial, I guess, leader of Jesus Unchained on Facebook. About 2 years ago now, Helen and I connected. We're both Canadians, so that was kind of a really cool thing, and so is Mike. And he's a Jays fan, obviously. So, anyways, we didn't know each other from Adam, and one of the people on her page commented, you should start a group, and I had already been thinking about it, and so I mentioned it to Helen, and Helen goes, yeah, let's do that. And by the next day we had a group. And that's kind of how it worked. It started with the two of us, and it's kind of picked up steam from there. The reason that we started Jesus Unchained is that both of us had been through deconstructions of our faith, and we're both at different places in that deconstruction, but we wanted to help others that were going through the process, or had even been through the process, that felt like they had something to give and communicate to others that would help them. So that was the first thing, like helping people feel less lonely, helping them feel less afraid of what they were going through, kind of helping with the cognitive dissonance that really comes with deconstruction was part of it too, because you just feel like you're going crazy sometimes with some of the thoughts that are going through your head with what you've been raised with versus what's going through your head now, right? So we just had a desire to help others, I think. Hey, Helen?
Yeah, totally. It was such a new place for me, like to it was such a almost like a new journey, and yet I look back and I see the journey where I'd come from and how I got there. But so I'm Helen. Hello. And so I live in Brandon, Manitoba, so that's where I'm from, and Sarah's out in BC.
Yes, on the coast.
Yes. Yes. And what was funny is both Sarah and I had pastoral background. And I was still in the ministry when we started this group. And since then, it's been a year and a little bit since we've stepped out, my husband and I. And been a hell of a journey. And glad to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. And I so confirm that when you struggled yourself, our deepest desire was just to create a safe space for people to talk, to be real, to be vulnerable,
the realness, yes.
And just to love and support each other in this journey. So it's
Yeah.
been an exciting few years for sure.
It has been, yeah. And it's been exciting to see how many people have come along. We knew that, especially, like, I'll bring it up because it's going to get talked about at some point, but especially with what happened in the States with the Trump presidency, we knew that there was going to be a huge group of people that started deconstructing their faith because of what they saw happening in the church. And I don't know, I think with being Canadians, we have a little bit of a unique spin on that, in the sense that, look, I'm hoping that we can be a little bit healing, like we can bring some healing to people, just differently. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if when you're always looking at the same people around you all of the time, sometimes the answers can seem like they're not there. And I think with us being an international group, there might be some ideas of how we can help bring some of those walls down that have gotten built too.
I've really valued that you really frown on and don't allow political posts,
Yeah.
because I've noticed many people who do or are on the journey of deconstruction, if their deconstruction is so tied to politics, that's all they can see. But there's
Yes.
so much more. It's not about the
Exactly.
politics. So to have your lens that you have provided for this group, I think you've done a really good job of just hang on. That's a whole different topic. That's not what this group is for. And I think you've done a great job on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's exactly. I mean, we can't ignore that happened, but it's not what we're about.
Yeah. How did you get other people involved in? Talk about your team as part of the
Okay,
admins.
well, I think I talked about how Helen and I got together. Then Nikki was, I think we kind of started connecting on Facebook again, and Nikki's in Australia, in Adelaide. And we noticed her heart and how she was just pouring it out to people on the page and just trying to help people along. And both Helen and I, like, we talked, and I said, what do you think? Do you think Nikki might be a good fit for us as far as, being part of our team on this journey? And she was like, yes, immediately. Like, there was no
Yes.
discussion. We were just, yes, she's the one.
Mhm.
And she said yes immediately too, which was surprising, because I mean, we didn't really know each other either, right? But it's like God has brought us all together for right now. Like, like, we didn't all know each other 2 years ago, but we do now. And then Gary came along, and he's not here tonight. We just again noticed that he was just putting into the group, and he had like a father's heart, a grandfather's heart for the group.
Mhm.
Kenny and I started touching base, and he sent me a book that he and his wife Laura have written on racism, and it was excellent. And again, you could just see his heart
Mhm.
towards the people, right? Like, it was wanting to help people and wanting to help them get through this journey.
Mhm.
And then Mike, you and I connected and started chatting. And again, God just brought it together. Like, you have a heart for this. You have a heart to do the recording stuff, which none of us knew how to do. So I just feel like, yeah, God's just bringing it all together. Like, we're a cohesive team of people that, yeah, are wanting to go somewhere with what we're finding out about Jesus, and with what we're finding out about his love, right? Like, those are, I think if we had like a statement of faith for the group, it would be, it's all about love. It's totally that simple. Because, if you take the Bible apart, that's basically what Jesus talked about. The four gospels, that's what he was here for. Everything else is what everybody else thought about it, but he just came to show us love. And that's what we want to communicate to our group. And we want the people in our group then to, as they heal, that's they're reaching out, they're touching people's lives with that same type of love, right?
So you just mentioned something really important on healing.
Mhm.
Could you give your personal snapshot of what you hope to see this group deal with and how it functions? Then maybe each person can give their lens, because
Sure.
while we have a common agreement, each one brings a unique flavor and focus, because we're not all good at the same thing. So
No.
Sarah, could you maybe just give us that? I love that idea of a place to heal. I caught that in your word there. But
Yeah.
and then we'll just go around the Hollywood squares here and
Sure. That's how I've been raised. That was my calling as a pastor before, is to a church that felt that they were to bring healing to the nations. Like that was their heartbeat. And so it's always been my heart to see people heal. I didn't realize people were going to need to heal from the church until I went through my own stuff that hurt, right? I think the biggest things are that there's room for anger, there's room for hurt, and there's room to talk that through. But you also want to see growth in that you're helping people towards a path of forgiveness. Because if you don't walk towards that path of forgiveness, like you said, all that comes up is the politics and the angst, the differences, right? And I don't think God wants us to be separate forever. I think it's a period of time where he's taken us out so that he can heal us. And then at some point, I'm hoping that we are able to all get back together again. Like that's my hope, that Jesus would bring healing and reconciliation to the pain that's come out over the last 6 years. So that would be the big part. I don't know how group will help with that. Like I know talking it through is helpful. I do some personal counseling, not a lot, but a little bit with people. People just want to feel loved. They want to feel heard.
and to know they're not alone.
Yes, exactly. That they aren't the first people going through this, whatever it is that they're going through at that moment, right? Like for me, it was pain, it was lonely, it was cognitive dissonance. For some people, it isn't that at all. Some people, it's just, oh, I feel God's love is leading me here, and they never go through that type of angst. So it's really cool to have a group of now 1,600 people that everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a little bit a different way of looking at it. And at first, I felt like I had to be there 24/7, looking at everything and looking after everything. And I don't feel that way anymore. Like this last little while, I've taken a break, and it's been beautiful to watch the group come together and just watch people in group that love on each other, right? Like there's no animosity, and that's something that we've really strived for as leaders, is that this group isn't a place where you come and get beat up. It isn't a place where you come and argue. It's a place where you come to receive love and to give love to everybody else, so that yes, we can all heal from what we've been through. Yeah, that makes sense.
Kenny,
hey,
tell us where you're from and all that stuff too.
I'm from the South, deep South of the United States, right outside New Orleans. I grew up in Mississippi, and I'm sure you all watched the movies about Mississippi. But me and my wife and 4 kids live just outside New Orleans. They were raised our children in New Orleans. I grew up in Mississippi, as did Laura. And I was trying to think back when I joined you guys. I don't really know how it came about, how I came across the space or this page, but somehow I did, and it's like I just was drawn to it, and just would look at it and read it, and then I started commenting or sending stuff, a little bit, just a touch. And then I think, Sarah, you put out you were like, hey, if anybody wants to, and I think we talked online a few times, would like to help. And so I'm like, I don't know why I did, because that is not really what I wanted. I just like, I did it. I don't know why I did it, but I did. But I'm glad I did. I mean, I really am glad I did. And you guys are great. And I'm glad that me and Helen become friends, and Nikki, we've chatted, and it was so crazy too, when I first joined, I thought the three of you guys were like bosom buddies. And I think I was talking to Sarah, and she's like, I don't really know them that well. I'm like, well, I thought you guys were like, go way back for, generations. But anyway,
Well,
so
let me tell you,
Feels like that now.
Yeah.
that does. Yeah.
Helen and Nikki were an answer to prayer, because before I went through my deconstruction, I had two best friends. And after my deconstruction, I no longer had those two best friends. And one was a blonde and one was a brunette. And I totally believe that, like Job, God's restoring.
Oh,
right? Like, I totally believe that. Like, that the
I'm just hoping to have hair.
Sorry. You two don't replace anybody. Sorry. I'm kidding. He's gonna draw it on. Oh, dear.
So Kenny,
Yes.
can you share from your heart what you like about this group, or what you're hoping to see, and how you hope people will interact?
Well, I think seeing, we don't see a lot of negativity. And I think we do that. I mean, Sarah's quick to find that and point it out. If one of us, if we don't see it, she stays on top of it. But seeing the people interact, especially looking at their people when they're submitting to become members, you sort of see what they're, whether it be LGBTQ, whether it be Trump, whether it be sin, hell, we sort of see what their buttons are, and we see what, and so we see some of these people, and some give lengthy, hey, this is really, I mean, and some give something short and poignant, but it's, you just see the hurt and the people that are really anguishing over has been put into the Bible, and it's basically a lie, a big lie is what I call it. The things have been put, homosexuality, I mean, things have just been put into the Bible. Once you find out that this was not in the Bible in the beginning, and people start, and I think religious people don't want to know that, because when you tell them that, they just like change the subject or go, get upset. They don't really want to see that. So it's like, you can't really change anybody's mind, or you can't force it down their throat. You just have to love them, and that's sometimes hard to do. I mean, there's nothing harder to love than a religious person, in my opinion. And that's just or a Trump supporter. I mean, that's my two big ones. And I'm going to go back to the politics of me being the only American here. I do agree that Sarah, and I think we've done a great job of, like, a Republican, Democrat, whatever. But as far as when a lot of people, and I've read it, a lot of people have came to us and I had this problem. I'm thinking, okay, you have Jesus here, you have Trump here. They don't line up together, but yet we have all our loved ones and people we've known forever and have been our religious leaders over here in the Trump circle. I can't understand that. And so I had a really huge problem with that. And it wasn't so much politics. It was like, what the hell's going on? Are we in a bizarro world? I mean, this is really, and I still struggle with thinking, I don't understand. It's almost like a Jim type situation. I know that sounds crazy, but this has been crazy, in my opinion. So and I don't want to get political, but there is, and I know you guys being on the outside looking in, it is intense here when it comes to that. I mean, it is. So some people.
I say to people that you're my litmus test. I always know when I need to broach something, because that's how we deal with it in group, is if there's something happening, is we try to broach it from the top and then talk about it, rather than having a bunch of
And we're looking at 2
different
more years.
posts, right?
Right, I agree. And we're looking at 2
Yeah.
more years now. This is going to be front and center. And you see, you don't see the pastors jumping on board Trump right now. But
No.
as soon as, it's going to be interesting to see if he wins the nomination, where are the Jim Jeffers and all the people that love him, and the cat, whatever face name is, Cat Kerr, the people that were pontificating and prophesying and that he was going to go back into office. And what are they going to? It's been tough. I mean, it's been
Can't
tough
even
here.
imagine what it's like.
Mm.
When you have Texas and you have all the different people, just and you think, am I seeing this wrong? I mean, me and Laura talk all the time. My wife's name is Laura, and we talk all the time, and we're like, are we on the wrong side of this? I mean, we really think, are we on the wrong? I mean, I really question myself, and then when I balance that against love, then it's like, no, we're not on the wrong side. We're on
What
the
a
right.
novel idea. Huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When in doubt, just do that. And I think you always come out on
Yeah.
top.
Well, it's the only thing, it's like you said, it's the only thing we have.
Mhm.
And
Do you
it's
know
the
what I
only
mean?
thing
Like,
the only thing we're told to do.
well, yeah, because yeah, you can take it to like a situation where you start trying to harm one another, but to what end does that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like the whole point is, like, one of the things about group is, and I'll bring it into this, is like we don't all have the same statement of faith. We don't all believe exactly the same way. Kind of what holds us together is what we don't believe anymore. Do you know what I mean? And but there's a
Good point.
freedom in us being able to believe whatever we feel. You know what I mean? Like there's a, not that we're not looking for truth, because we are. I'm not saying that, but there's a freedom to find it, rather than having to follow all these rules and pretend you're already, you know, that you've already figured it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
So,
silly to think you figured anything out. But
yeah.
that's the one common core amongst the five, and you include Gary, the six of us, that is undoubtable is love. I mean, that's first and
Yes.
foremost, and everything else is just the color of the carpet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we'll argue about, the color of the carpet, as we used to say at church all the time. You know, but everything else is just is nothing. It has nothing else. I mean, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's really the common denominator, isn't it, between all of us, is that
Right.
we all stand firm that God is love.
Yes.
Right. Right.
And in every human being. And so we can put all our differences aside and come together, because God is love.
And
And
love is God.
Yes.
in him we find that unity together, and we can say, hey, we can be on different parts of our journey,
Exactly.
and we can
Yes.
support, love one another, and recognize, hey, it's just a journey, and all of us are on this same journey. It might look differently, but we all have this one thing in common, and that's that, you know, God has one purpose, that love resides, love abides, love heals, love wins, as Rob Bell would say. You know, ultimately love will have the final say. And so I think, you know, this forum is a beautiful place for people to explore what that looks like
Safely.
and safely, without judgment or criticalness, or, oh no, well, I believe this, so you should believe this, or, you know, or I have the answers. Heck, nobody has the answers. We all see in part, and we can learn from one another. And you know, I don't have to believe everything another person believes, but there might be snippets of their journey that I can learn from. And I think the most beautiful thing about this group is there's so many people who are deconstructing very differently from me. You know, some similar, some way different to the way I have, and who are rebuilding differently from me. And it's beautiful, because you have all these people from all across the world, and yet we've never met each other physically, and yet there's a camaraderie that's there. That's just precious. And I think that's just the most beautiful thing about deconstructing and rebuilding, is that it really does take away and tear away all the divisiveness that keeps us all apart.
Mm.
You know.
That's
You
cool.
look at our friend lists too across the internet. We've all found each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on different pages and on different, it's like we still wanted Jesus, because the one thing that I want to bring over in this couple of things is, I think it's important. I mean, this is what I believe. You don't have to believe this, but I believe that narrow way that is spoken about in scripture is love, that it's going through the process of learning how to love God, really learning how to love yourself, because until you love yourself, you honestly can't love others. Going through that process is going through the narrow door. Once you're through that narrow door, it's really wide. It's not like there's this scripted, really tight version that you have to walk. Jesus, there's total freedom in Jesus. I mean, I don't want people to go out and do silly things, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's freedom there. There isn't rules and legalism and dogma like we've been taught about in the past. And the other thing is that people keep wondering about what's happening to the church. And the truth is that we're the church. We are the church. Jesus lives and moves, breathes through us. So we are the church. So wherever we are together is church. It doesn't have to be in a building with a bunch of other people, although it can look that way. Us meeting together, just talking in group, is church, like, because we are that church, right? So
that's also one of the deconstruction categories is unlearning what church really wasn't and isn't.
Yes.
And everything that we're unlearning or deconstructing is technically not true anyway. That's why it's deconstructing.
Yeah.
So to know that we're not giving up Jesus. Some people do. They swing right to the goodbye Jesus. And I don't think we're there. I don't think this group is that either. And that's what I see in each of you. And that's really cool.
Yeah, well, that was a big one, that the bathwater's super dirty. We want to get rid of the bathwater, but the baby stays, right? Jesus is the baby. Without him, none of the rest of it works. It just doesn't, right?
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but it's, for me, the more you start reading about Jesus, the more the more we start reading about this dude, and the more we start understanding what love is, the more I've started hating, I mean, absolutely hating religion, and seeing seeing the damage and the cruelty of what religion. I mean, religion is so destructive, and yet Yeshua is so healing that it's like, what is really maybe the largest. People said the largest, lie of the devil ever, the biggest trick the devil ever pulled on mankind. It's got to be religion.
Yeah.
At least the system of religion, right?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and believe in the devil or not believe in the devil. I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying, as far as evil,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Is religion. Religion is toxic.
Well, we tend to build boxes around whatever we think is the revelation, right? And once we get the one revelation, then that's it, that's God. But we're never supposed to build the box, because God keeps revealing himself, right? Like it's
yeah. I know for my hubby and I, being in ministry for so long, you can see it happening because we moved to so many different places and different cultures and different mindsets and even different denominations we were a part of. Our boxes kept breaking. And when it dawned on me that following Jesus was leading us out of the system,
Mhm.
that was such a huge revelation. And I feel like even because the system burnt us out,
Yep.
and so I never saw that until recently. It was actually due to, first of all, this walk out of fear totally deconstructs you when,
Yes.
like, it is the encountering of Jesus' love himself that actually began to just like something is amiss with the things we believe. The system and the belief systems were keeping me in fear. And
Yes.
so I felt like just what Jesus would say to me was just so out of this religious belief system. I thought that it just sounded so good, too good to be true.
Yeah.
But it was this journey of following Jesus that I felt like has led us out of the system for now. And my heart, because along the way, not only did we need healing, but you encounter so many people
Yes.
that have been so destroyed and damaged by wrong views of God. And that is like my deepest heart desire, because I've watched the one I love the most, which is my hubby,
Yeah.
who was pastoring, and the self-hate, and just because of the belief systems that were not true about who God was. And watching him heal has been so amazing. But this journey, as painful as it has been so beautiful. And so when you begin to feel that love and feel the healing, you know there are millions out there who need that. And that is our heart here in this group, is for just a space where people can come and will walk with you just as a whole. You're not alone. And there is healing. Love will heal. Love will drive out the fear and the wrong images of God that we've seen. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah. The scripture, perfect love casts out all fear, has been a huge thing while deconstructing. That scripture has come to life. So I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes people also need to redefine love. That's not a romance movie. Or love, it makes everything okay. It's not what love is.
That's right.
When we take a look at agape, the true meaning of agape, that to me changes God is love.
Yeah.
It does require an unlearning, unthreading of a false concept of love and a false concept of God. And then Jesus shows up and says, y'all, your teachers had it all wrong. Nobody's seen God. Nobody's gotten it right. But the Father and I are the same. We're one. You've seen me. You've seen the Father. That blew my mind.
Yes. Yeah. Jesus is the face of God.
Period.
End of story. That's right. Like
That's really cool, Helen, to hear your story. I didn't know that about your husband. And I'm a pastor. I'm still in a role. I'm still doing the thing, but I feel like I'm straddling the unlearning and still in a church where people are still unlearning and deconstructing, and not so much the deconstruction, but renovating and regrowing, or reshaping the faith that has now grown anew. And I think that's been a lot of fun too, because it gives me hope that, hey, there's still stuff I'm going to face that I have to unlearn. I don't know what it is, but that's okay. My heart is getting tuned to listen to the Holy Spirit, not to a book, not to a teacher or leader, So I'm still learning it. Just because I'm a pastor, don't assume anything. That's just a funky role. But
I think one of the cool things, sorry, Helen, is that with deconstruction is that by meeting each other, we've given, especially those that were ahead of us a little bit, like Dr. Brad Jerzak. He gave us words. He gave us the vocabulary for what we were already feeling and going through. Right? Like it was like all of a sudden there was just, we had a way to describe what it was, because now there was vocabulary because somebody had actually, you know, thought it through, and it was, yeah.
Can I share a meme with you guys that I shared with my
Sure.
church on Sunday? I'm gonna
Yeah.
do the share screen thing here. Give me one sec. This was really, really good. This is like Brad Jerzak saying it, but it's a guy named Brian Metzger. So sometimes we say deconstructing my faith, when what we really mean is I just discovered that faithful followers of Jesus have for centuries read the Bible differently than I've been taught to.
Yes.
Yes.
Things like that, redefining deconstruction, finding better words, and different people. Each of you have added vocabulary to people. I've learned from you, and we just
Vice
share what we
versa.
learn. Nothing's original.
Yeah.
The most incredible thing for me was, I remember when I had deconstructed, but I did this completely on my own, like started 15 years ago, and then 9 years ago, it was like the wrecking ball just hit hard, bang, everything went. And it was a really scary, very traumatic time. I came from I was born in a Greek home, born in Australia though, so I have very cultural Greek home, but I had no religious upbringing as such, and I got saved into a Pentecostal church, which was really beautiful at the start, changed leadership and became a full-blown cult.
Yeah.
Not just cultish practices or cultish beliefs, but a full-blown cult with a cult leader. And that left me with severe PTSD. And I mean, horrific. I could not be around a Christian and not feel like throwing up, and my sweating, feeling so sick. I relate to Helen's hubby. I felt like the worst of sinners and was treated like that also. So I think the most amazing thing, the most incredible thing was to discover that this gospel that we were taught was not the gospel originally.
Right.
And that what seems new to us now is in fact the ancient faith.
Yes.
Right.
Is in fact the way the early church fathers read it, the way for centuries the medieval teachers taught it, and that really evangelicalism and I guess Protestant teaching has, and you know, I don't want to put everybody in the same boat.
No.
I really don't want to do that. But what it's done, that's the new thing. That was the thing that went off course. It made it all about the law and all about performance and all about my faith.
Yeah.
Rather than the one who is faith, who is Jesus.
Yeah.
You know? And he is the man, the God man who shows us what it's like to walk out in love.
Yes.
And that's a real freeing place from thinking I'm a horrible, wretched sinner.
Yeah.
Who's gonna or man, I've got the goods and you're a horrible, wretched sinner.
Yeah.
And somehow I have to help you see the light because I have the light and you don't. And I think it's the most refreshing thing to realize that, you know, God didn't hide the truth. It's always been there. And there's just, for a moment, we just did the best we could with what we were taught. And what we were taught was inherently anti-Christ.
Well, that's
and
what it is anti-Christ.
And so it is. And I think throughout history, and also deconstruction has existed right from the start, because so long as there is man, all you have to do is look at the Old Testament to see how much we create a God in our own image, you know, and how we interpret the actions that happen around us, you know. And I think there's this understanding that, hey, so long as we're human, we don't understand God fully. We only see in part. So the rest of my life, I will be deconstructing and rebuilding and deconstructing and rebuilding. And it's a beautiful journey. It started off traumatic as hell for me. It took me many years to heal. But hey, on the other side of it, there is this beautiful, free thing. And more importantly, to come to a place where I love myself and I
Yes.
love other people.
Yes.
And I don't mean trying to love myself or trying to love other people.
Yeah.
I mean genuine thing from inside, and you look and you think, wow, I know that wasn't me. I know this has been God all along.
Yes.
Healing and gently guiding me through safely and sometimes very precariously and very painfully. But it's
We got just a couple more minutes left, just a heads up. But hey, maybe you can get a quick wrap up, Sarah. What do you want to say to the group? Because I think this is really the first time we're doing a video to the group. So
yeah,
it is. Well, we hadn't had you before.
Yeah.
So you see, you bring something to us that we didn't have. It's good. It's good. I just want people to be encouraged. If you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling despondent, if you're in a place where you're hurting, don't give up. You know, don't let go of Jesus. Let's talk about it. Ask your questions. Like, don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to be mad at God. Don't be afraid to have the feelings and the conversations and read books that, you know, you've avoided because, oh my God, you know, I'm not supposed to see that. Well, sometimes that's how we find out truth, right? So it's like, I just want to encourage people, like, don't be afraid to search for it. So, yeah.
What she said.
Awesome.
yeah, I don't think we need to be afraid of the deconstructing. I think when people find this group, my hope is that they will see, hey, I'm allowed to ask questions. We were never allowed to question the answers. But now we're questioning everything, and everything can be questioned. I think it's important. So
As a little child.
Yeah. And so Jesus is big enough to walk us through down any narrow deconstruction topic, and is big enough to bring us back if we've overstepped, if we've overrun the base. Jesus is big enough to bring us back. And so we don't have to worry and live in fear. So I think it's really important.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the next one, and maybe we'll even have a topic. Who knows? But we're going to have a discussion once we finish this recording. So, folks, thanks for watching this little short thingy, and we'll do it again.
Yes.
All righty. I hope you enjoyed that conversation between the admins and the forming members of this Facebook group called Jesus Unchained. Again, it's a be careful with your expectations when you come into a group. Ooh, I'm going to get all this out of it. Well, maybe it's not so much about getting something out of it as it is growing in it. Okay, developing a couple friendships. It's not a place to post your own personal teaching like crazy. Once in a while I get to, because I'm one of the admins, but this is about having those conversations, asking some of those questions. If you come across a really good video that or resource that answers some questions about deconstruction or the journey, or a really tough question on faith, hopefully this becomes that group or one of the groups, because there's many on the internet, but this is a unique one. So that's why I'm sharing it. I'm part of this one and I love it. And I hope this becomes a safe place for people to land. And if you land and don't like it, then leave. And those that like it for a little bit of time and then move on, that's great. There are no rules for how long you stay. My hope is that you'll be encouraged by it. And I love the hearts of each of these individuals. Did you catch that? I just rewatched it for the first time since I recorded it, and man, that was really good. I kind of had this cool, man, I like these people. They're really good people, and we're gonna do this again, and maybe kind of have different topics as we go. So stay tuned for more. If you do join the group, just mention because you have to answer some questions. So if you don't answer the questions, you're gonna get rejected. So you gotta answer the questions. And why are those questions important? Well, it's to make sure people take the time to meaningfully apply to be in this group. It's not for religious people who want to combat deconstructionists. This is not for you. Go somewhere else. This is for a group of people that want to learn and are exploring, agree to the guidelines, and that's it. So the moderators are there to see others grow in love. So, jerks get bumped out, and don't be a jerk. That's it. Be like Jesus. Be loving. I think it's great. Anyway, so the link's below if you want to, if you want to consider joining the group. And next week, I have a special guest, Catherine Toon. So stay tuned for that, and we'll deal with that one next week. So until then, I hope you guys have a really, really good week, and I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did enjoy it, please comment. I think you'll love that. Have a great rest of the week. Peace out. Join me next time on Still Growing in Grace for more good news. Enjoy previous episodes by downloading our podcast at growingingrace.ca. You can also visit hopefellowshipycc.com to find our service times and location. If this show has been an encouragement to you, please consider making a donation today at growingingrace.ca and help us keep spreading this good news. Thank you again for tuning in to Still Growing in Grace.